Hey there, fans of Canuck Rock. This is Peter Skov for Music is a Journey. Today we're taking a look at another first 10 albums of a band in this series that I'm doing, and today's band is April Wine, one of the great Canadian rock bands ranking somewhere below Rush, but actually almost as good. Maybe even better, depending on your opinion. Alright, so we're going to take a look here at the history of the band, what happened over those first 10 albums, what was going on within the band, as well as just how those albums are, what happened on those albums, and then we're going to take a look at what the state of the band was by the end of that 10 album run. So our story goes back to St. John's, Newfoundland, actually in the early 60s, where brothers David and Richie Henman played music together. David played guitar and sang, and Richie played drums. He could also play keyboards as well. And by the late 1960s, they went off to Halifax, Nova Scotia, and hooked up with their cousin Jim Henman, who had just left a band he'd been playing in called The Termites. And with him came another Termites, ex-Termite member, Miles Goodwin. So together the four of them formed a band, and I think it was Jim Henman who came up with the name April Wine, because he thought those two words sounded good together. And I have to agree, I think April Wine is a great name for a rock band. So around 1970, they were working on some music, making a demo, and they sent it off to Aquarius Records in Montreal. Now, Aquarius Records actually sent them a rejection letter, but through some kind of misunderstanding, they thought they'd been accepted. And so they packed up all their gear and went off to Montreal to Aquarius Records, where they then had to try to convince the record label to sign them anyway. And apparently they did, because in September of 1971, they were able to release their debut album, simply entitled April Wine, with a pair of lovely feet on the front cover. I think everybody's albums need to have a pair of feet on the cover sometime or another. Don't you think so, Neil Merriweather? Yeah, I thought so. So, this album is actually a really unique album in the April Wine catalog, because this is still 1971 and we've got the Henman family along with Miles Goodwin on here. 3 songwriters, 3 lead vocalists, each person bringing in his own style to the whole thing. So, we have Jim Henman singing the songs Can't Find the Town and Song for Mary, which are more laid-back acoustic, especially Song for Mary. It's kind of an acoustic ballad type thing. Then we have David Henman taking Oceana and Page 5. These are longer tracks that move into different moods, kind of more on the psychedelic, almost progressive side of things. Page 5 is actually a really good one, I think, and it has some different guitar solos going on. One part sounding almost like a Jimmy Page inspired guitar solo, whereas another part taking on that kind of Middle Eastern style that Ritchie Blackmore played on some of the very early Deep Purple records, and which he later on brought back for a song like Stargazer in Rainbow. Then we have Miles Goodwin. He's singing Fast Train and Listen Mister. Both of these more kind of straight up rock songs, at least straight up for 1971. I think there was a fair bit of musical complexity even in straight up rock songs around this time. But anyway, Fast Train actually was the song that got them on the charts with a kind of minor hit in Canada. And on the strength of that song, it actually got them a chance to record a second album. We have a couple of other tracks on here too. Let me see here. Time is actually, yeah, it's another Jim Henman song. So yeah, Can't Find the Town, Mary, and Time. Time is a little bit more of a rock type song, not quite so much on the acoustic side, but still kind of lots of melody to it. But one interesting track here is track number 7, called Wench. This was a band effort. I think it was Jim Henman taking the vocals, bassist Jim Henman taking the vocals, the cousin. But it was a band effort in the writing, and the song is kind of unusual. I think if you've ever heard War Pigs album from, I think it's 1970, 1971, if you ever heard that album, it sounds like it could be something from that album. It's a little bit on the kind of more heavy, quasi-progressive side with some kind of weird times to the song. But yeah, that's the debut album. Oh, here's the picture of the gang on the back there. And I can actually see, based on the overall flavor of this album and what was to come afterwards, I can understand if there are some people who only like the Foot album and not so much the others. It's unique and it's pretty cool. But it is unique because, you know, a lineup change was coming up. Because after the debut, Jim Henman decided to leave the band, and so they had to call in another bass player by the name of Jim, because you had to have a Jim in the band, right, on bass. So they brought in Jim Clench, a bass player from a local area in Montreal. And then, in 1972, they released their second album on record. Now, this album already shows a change in the sound. First of all, Miles Goodwin has taken over most of the songwriting, as well as most of the lead vocals. The album also starts off curiously with an instrumental called Farkas, which is acoustic guitar and some kind of like a hand drums or Eastern sounding drums, a little bit like Led Zeppelin's Black Mountainside type of thing. And then the next song on that was the kind of big hit for the band, a cover of the Hot Chocolate song Could Have Been a Lady, which had just actually been released in, England like a year before. So April Wine did it here, and it actually became, what did it go up to? It went way up on the charts for them. I've got two cats coming through the room now. I got to open the door for them. Just a moment. Yeah, that's right. Could Have Been a Lady actually reached number 2 in Canada, and it went into the charts in the United States as well. Now, April Wine's producer was actually going to try to get the band an international hit. And, well, it actually did become a hit within North America, so he kind of did that, which is pretty cool. The rest of the album is quite an interesting mix of basically rock songs. We've got songs like Work All Day, Work All Night, which is just got a really nice heavy riff to it at the beginning. A pretty good hard-hitting song, kind of like early Nazareth in a way, almost, for that guitar sound, that power in the guitar. I gotta consult my notes here because it's been a couple of days since I listened to the album. Work All Day, Work All Night. Bad Side of the Moon is actually a cover of an early song by Elton John. So Bernie Taupin and Elton John. I think I heard that it was Elton John's second single or the B-side of his second single. But anyway, the April Wine version is really cool. You kind of think the it's a my life, it's a my life, it's a my life would get a little bit repetitive. But there's stuff happening in the music, there's some flute, there's stuff happening with the percussion. So it's actually pretty cool. Checking out some other stuff here, we have Believe in Me is a kind of what I write here, an early 70s kind of epic type song. Sorry, not epic, with strings, yeah. Drop Your Guns, just a great anthemic early song. That one's actually written by, David Henman actually did that one. Forgot that, right? Let's see here. Refuge is a song, also a David Henman one, similar to something from the first album. It's got that more kind of extended, almost multi-part longer kind of tracks, kind of psychedelic feel to it. And Flow River Flow, one of these early 70s piano-led type songs. Carry On is a really good rocker. And the final song, Without You, is an acoustic track composed and sung by Jim Clench. So now April Wine are doing all right. They've got themselves a song that all the way up to number 2 in the charts. They have got, they've hit the American charts now. And then suddenly the two Henman brothers decide to leave. David and Richie also part ways with the band, leaving Miles Goodwin as the only founding member remaining in the band by the end of the second album. Wow. Cats! 2 of them! What was I saying? Okay, so the Hammond brothers decide to leave the band, and now we've got Miles Goodwin as the sole founding member of the band left, and they've got to, he and Jim Clench decide they've got to keep the band going, let's get a new guitarist and a new drummer in. So they brought in Gary Moffat on guitars and Jerry Mercer on drums, both of them having formerly been in the band Mosh McCann, who had a hit song in 1970 called As the Years Go By, and had also toured with April Wine after the first album. Cats again. Just a moment. Now, according to Wikipedia, the credits of additional musicians on the third album actually include the Hanman brothers, so I'm kind of imagining they were at least around for the writing process of the next album. However, the next album was really heavily written by the joint team of Miles Goodwin and Jim Clench. And once again, we get an album that is really a unique one in the April Wine catalog. This is the third album, Electric Jewels, released in 1973. And why it's so unique is because the songwriting is almost split down the middle between the two songwriters, which I even heard one person say it was almost like a Lennon-McCartney songwriting team. So we've got either Jim Clench or Miles Goodwin taking the lead vocals on the tracks, with some of them actually sharing lead vocals, where Jim will sing most part, but Miles will come in for a kind of bridge or something, and then vice versa on another track, or just, you know, they take turns on lead for some of the tracks. This is actually one of my top 3 favorite April Wine albums. It could be my favorite, or if not my second favorite, depending on if I listen to this one and then Nature of the Beast, or Nature of the Beast and then this one. Basically, both of them tie for first place. This is such a rocker of an album, you know, almost all these kind of meandering tracks or kind of more gentle acoustic tracks, they're almost completely done away with, and it's just pretty much solid rock, hard rock, almost all the way through. Jim Clench has a really good voice to go against Miles Goodwin. Miles Goodwin's voice is easily recognized. If you've heard April Wine songs before, you only need to hear 1 or 2 before you hit the third one. You know exactly which band it is because of Miles's voice. But Jim has a very different voice, and sometimes, like on the more intense stuff, he almost sounds like he's going hysterical, which just really adds to the intensity of the music. So the opening track, Weeping Willow, is such a great, great song. And you know what? I'm going to pull a sneaky Pete here. Just a moment. Okay, so I've got my little Bluetooth speaker here on my phone. I just want to play a short clip off of this. Hopefully it won't get blocked. Actually, a few years back, this song was not on YouTube. However, it is on now. I think recently, maybe April Wine have allowed some of their older albums, or at least some of their songs, to be released on YouTube. So you can actually find it, Weeping Widow. But let's just hear a short clip from this. This song just kicks so much ass. That guitar sound, you know, by the end of listening to it, your glutes will be goop. So let's just hear part of it. And that's all I'm going to do, because the last time I did that a little bit, I actually did get a copyright strike. So anyway, that's Weeping Widow. The rest of the album is also really, really awesome. And the next song after this, just like that, is just a fun rock and roll song with Miles and Jim taking turns. The title track, Electric Jewels, is one of the last songs to kind of go back to the old days. A longer song, kind of a psychedelic feel, goes into an acoustic part, and then a kind of more majestic, epic electric rock ending to it. We actually have an acoustic, what is it here? A kind of gentler acoustic track, You Opened Up My Eyes, a Jim Clench song. But after that, let's see here, Come Along, kind of mid-tempo, good rock song, nice guitar sound. Lady Run, Lady Hide is probably the first of the Miles Goodwin's ballads, Miles Goodwin ballads, which would then come up on every album afterwards. Always one ballad on every album. And you know, they're kind of good lead into what would become the power ballad years later, but just great rock ballads if you're into that kind of thing. They actually released an album of just ballads. Those ballads were so good. But anyway, Run Lady Run, and then after that, I Hear You Calling Me with Miles Goodwin and Jim Clench. That's a really good song. Cat's Claw, Jim Clench, a really good, nasty, dirty rock and roll song. And what was the last one is The Band Has Just Begun, a great fast tempo rock song. And The Band Has Just Begun. You know, we lost 3 of the founding members now. But hey, we've got 3 new people in, and yeah, this band is not going anywhere except up. So yeah, and actually, as a side note, Terry Brown of Rush fame was the engineer on this album. So Run Lady Run was also managed to get in the charts off this album here. There were also Weeping Widow was also kind of anyway a fan favorite. And yeah, the band moved onwards then to make the 4th album. However, there was a change in the songwriting approach. When we come to, was this 1975, the album released, their 4th album released in 75 called Stand Back. Jim Clench, who was on like 50% of the last album, actually only takes 2 songs on here. The opening track, Ooh What a Night, and Baby Done Got Some Soul, which is kind of a more of funky dance tune, almost like a precursor to disco in a way. It's still pretty cool though. It's like some years ago I would have totally overlooked this song, but listening to it the other day I thought, hey, that's a kind of like hidden gem there. It kind of reminds me of that like early Glenn Hughes solo stuff that he did in the late 70s. So anyway, still the same 4 members from the last album, and we've got some great songs coming off here. Don't Push Me Around is a just good solid rocker, which has always remained a kind of a fan favorite. Come Hear the Band, a little bit more slower, but not a ballad. It's about the band starting out and the guy singing to his girl, you know, come hear the band on a Friday night. But it does have a bit of a kind of a late 50s, early 60s ballad feel at one part, and even has the little, you know, hand snaps and so on. I've always really liked this song. The dual guitar solo is really melodic, very beautiful. It's one of those songs I can listen to, especially paying attention to the guitar solo. Slowpoke is a kind of weird, bluesy, slow, smooth, bluesy type number, but Miles's voice is slowed down. So if you're listening to it thinking, who is taking lead vocals on this song? I don't know that voice. They have a guest? Victim of Your Love just has a really great, kind of really mean, grinding guitar sound, especially on the opening riff. Wouldn't Want to Lose Your Love is the big Miles Goodwin ballad off of here. Very beautiful song. Sloan, talked about them before. They actually covered it on an album which was the so-called Party album, where they supposedly played songs live at a party. Highway Hard Run, just a good hard rock intense song, a little bit on the heavy side. Not For You, Not For Rock and Roll, fun rock and roller. Wouldn't Want Your Love Any Other Way, very melodic, nice, upbeat, catchy rock and roller. And then Tonight Is a Wonderful Time to Fall in Love, the close-up for the album. One of the fan favorites, and a very pretty song with just 3 chords all the way through. There's a modulation where it goes up, but it's just the same 3 chords throughout the whole song. Miles Goodwin actually talks about this song. There's a video of him, I think it's called like Behind the Vinyl. It's a series on YouTube, Behind the Vinyl, where they have different musicians talking about some of their famous songs. And Miles Goodwin talks about this one. Got a bit of cowbell in there, and some what was it called? No, a Celeste keyboard. Very pretty song. I love that one. And that was Stand Back. But, you know, why did Jim Clench only come up on 2 songs on this album? What's going on? Well, I don't know the background details. There weren't really any available out there on the internet. Miles Goodwin actually has a book called Just Between You and Me, which is about his life as a musician, especially in April Wine. But, you know, I've been thinking about getting it for years. And way back 2019, I thought, okay, I'm going to order it, have it sent to my mom's place, so next time I go to Canada, I'll pick it up so I can save on the, you know, expensive shipping to Japan. And then COVID broke out, and I haven't been back to see my mom for like 4 years now. But now the book is out of print. You've got to like hunt it down as an expensive used copy for like $80. So probably won't ever read it. But it is available online through the Windsor Library. Anyway, so we lose Jim Clench. He leaves the band. And so they bring in a guy named Steve Lang in on bass. Now, actually, one thing I forgot to mention, Stand Back was not only did the album go platinum in Canada, it was the first album by a band to go platinum in Canada. Now, of course, Canada's platinum sales is not the same as the American one. I think the American one is like 1 million, and Canada's only about 1/10 the population, so it's 100,000. But still, you know, pretty good thing. But the next album actually went platinum on pre-sales. Feline Intervention. Just a moment. I hear ya. Phew, gonna be editing this video in like small parts. Anyway, so here we go. The Whole World's Gone Crazy. Released 1976. So, Jim Clench is gone, Steve Lang is in on bass, and we now basically have the lineup that is going to stick right through until the 11th album, with one minor change and addition coming up a little bit later on. But Whole World's Going Crazy, this is, I think we go from Electric Jewels to Stand Back to this one here. We've got 3 really strong rock albums, each with their own individual flavor to them. It starts off with Gimme Love, which is, you know, pretty much a good April Wine rock song, but is the next one so bad? This is really cool because we've got Frank Marino of Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush here as a guest. You'll notice it right from the beginning. It's got that Frank Marino guitar sound. Really awesome. Next is Wings of Love, one of my favorite songs of the 70s, one of my favorite April Wine songs. A ballad, yes, but a power ballad that really gets powerful. That really hard-hitting, crunchy guitar sound we heard on Weeping Willow, like that, comes in later on for the heavier parts. Actually kind of reminds me of something from Scorpions Taken by Force, really. And some guests on there. We've got Marie Bernard from the Quebec prog band, etc. She's playing an onde martenot, which is early electronic style instrument similar to a theremin, except it also has this ring on a string that you can slide that makes these really like beautiful like sliding high notes. It's really lovely. And we also have a guest female vocalist. Her name Marie-Lou Gauthier. I tried to find out what she's done. There's not a heck of a lot of her stuff out there, even on Discogs. Very, very little. And there are actually there's more than one person with that name who's a singer. So hard to tell. But anyway, great, great song that one is. That would be one of my probably top 5 April Wine songs, Wings of Love. We Can Be More Than We Are. Now, this is an interesting one. It is an instrumental, basically. The sound is something like if you can imagine Glenn Hughes and Tommy Bolin doing an album together. That kind of a feel to it. And it's actually Jim Henman, formerly of the band. In the middle of the song, you actually hear this telephone ringing, and there's a phone dialogue between somebody, maybe Miles, and Jim is telling about what he's doing recently, and then he starts kind of like singing a little bit. You know, he sings a line and talks, and sings a line and talks, and it all just fits right in with the music. The American release of this album did not include that track. Instead, it included the song Marjorie, which is a ballad from the next album. We have Rock and Roll Women, exactly what you'd expect it to be like. Shot Down, another rocker, Like a Lover, Like a Song. This is the true Miles Goodwin ballad from this album, the kind that we get on every song. And of course, it was also a charting song for the band. Kick Willie Road, kind of a fun rocker. And then The Whole World's Going Crazy, the title track. Bit of a weird one. They've got some sped up vocals, so it sounds like, you know, Alvin and the Chipmunks are guesting on there. I don't really like it so much, but it was listed in the kind of fan picks for the top 25 April Wine songs of all time. It was listed in that top 25. So that is, yeah, April Wine are just going up and up and up, hitting platinum on pre-sales for this album. Then a weird thing happens. Miles Goodwin decides he wants to do a solo album. He writes a bunch of songs, a lot of it going back to different types of musical influences, things going back to the late 50s or early 60s, and he wants to put out the solo album, and the record label says, no, you can't go and do a solo album now. April Wine is really hitting it hot right now. You know, we've got to do another April Wine album. So here's what we're going to do. Do your songs, we're going to get the other band members to come in and play them, and we're going to release your solo album as an April Wine album. What a great idea. It worked really well for Tony Iommi and Black Sabbath, right? Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi, Seventh Star. Remember that one? Anyway, so we come out in 1977 with April Wine, Forever for Now. And if you love April Wine for all their nice rock and hard rock songs so far, this album will make you stop and wonder, what? And in fact, the initial sales of this album reflected the same thing. It's like everybody went, what? And sales did not move as quickly as the other albums at first. We open with a perfectly normal April Wine rock song. What is it called here? Forever for Now, the title track, right? Of course, yeah. Let me check my notes here. Next up, Child's Garden is a kind of piano rock song I wrote down. Then Lovin' You, piano, kind of semi-ballad type thing. Hollywood is like 70s rock, but not hard rock, you know? And then we go to You Won't Dance With Me, the kind of late 1950s ballad type song. Innocently beautiful, sweet, young love with some very cheesy synthesizer. The only really redeeming thing for me is the song kind of starts to get into that kind of more April Wine, powerhouse, melodic rock for the conclusion of the song. I don't particularly like this song. However, once it was released, this song climbed to number 6 in the charts, and the album sales suddenly pushed up to number 5. So, in spite of all the weirdness on here, this album did really, really well. We, just covering some of the other tracks on here, Come Away is a kind of like a hippie acoustic song is my notes with piano. Mama Lay has got Latin flavor to it. I'd Rather Be Strong has a calypso feel to it. And then Hard Times, I don't know, is it Johnny Cash? I don't know enough of Johnny Cash to say, but it's that kind of, I don't know, low, almost like half, like speak like singing or sing like speaking type low vocals, but a very interesting lyrics, and I want to quote my favorite part of the song. It says, "When the truck driver don't want a truck, and the hockey player won't touch the puck, and the rock musician don't want to fool around, it's hard times." All right, and then finally we've got Marjorie, the song that popped over on the American version of Whole World's Going Crazy, kind of strings, ballad, that type of song there. So yeah, like if you're expecting another April Wine album full of hard rock, you're going to get probably about 3 songs that fit the bill, and then 1 song which is the usual ballad type thing, and the rest of it is going to make you wonder, what are April Wine doing? Kind of like Nazareth's second album, Exercises. Like, what was that all about? I still don't know. But anyway, it seems that they decided they had to do something here. But in the meantime, things were happening. It seems April Wine actually got invited to open for a band at a charity event at the, what's it called? The El Macambo Club. The band that they were opening for was being billed as the Cockroaches. However, rumors began to leak out who the Cockroaches really were. And those rumors were confirmed on the night of the concert, where after April Wine finished up their set, the Rolling Stones popped out on stage. And after that, April Wine actually got to tour a bit with the Rolling Stones, so that was really cool. However, I think they realized they are a hard rock band, and what they decided to do was get a 3rd guitarist in. So Brian Greenway, I think he had been playing with Jim Henman in Jim Henman's band, which he had started up after leaving April Wine. So Brian Greenway comes in. We now have Miles Goodwin, lead vocals, lead guitar, and keyboards. We have Brian Greenway being able to take over lead vocals as well. He's a songwriter, a harmonica player, also lead guitarist. And then we've got Gary Moffat also doing lead guitar. So we've got 3 lead guitarists now. Kind of an unusual thing, you know, in the 1970s. Who was it? Leonard Skinner had it, and I think that was probably about it for famous bands. So, what do we have? 1978 sees First Glance. This one here is the Canadian cover. The American cover looked like this. And this picture was just so cool, they used this for their Greatest Hits album, as well as another compilation album later on. But nevertheless, this sees April Wine back on track as a hard rock act. Interesting thing is the first 2 tracks appear... the listing is Hot on the Wheels of Love is track 1 and Get Ready for Love is track 2. However, on the CD, it's the other way around. Which you know, because Hot on the Wheels of Love actually says Hot on the Wheels of Love in the song, and that's on track 2. So a bit of a mix-up there. But anyway, Get Ready for Love is a really great April Wine rock song, but it is Hot on the Wheels of Love, which is, again, one of my top 10 favorites, and I hear a cat meowing, so... Oh yeah, Maya. Pussycat, pussycat. I think I'm going to have to list the cats plural, as a credit in the credits of this video. Do I do credits? Not anymore, I used to. So what do we got here? We also have Rock and Roll is a Vicious Game. This is a kind of slower song talking about how exactly, you know, rock life is tough. And Miles Goodman was thinking about people like Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison, and more recently Elvis Presley. However, when this song came out, the critics immediately jumped on it, saying that, oh, this is Miles Goodwin's Sour Grapes because April Wine has just not become as famous as he wants them to be. No, that's not what it was. And in fact, on this Behind the Vinyl, there's also a video of Miles Goodwin talking about this song as well, if I remember correctly. At least I saw an interview of him talking about that. Right down to it is a Brian Greenway song. So Brian Greenway writing and taking the lead vocal there. Roller, though, is the kind of, it's the big hit off this album. This not only was really popular in Canada, it also hit the charts in the States and apparently was a top requested song in Flint, Michigan for a while. And there's an interesting thing. Okay, let's see if I can pull another sneaky Pete here. Just a moment. There's an interesting part with all 3 lead guitarists taking their turn. And again, Behind the Vinyl, Miles Goodwin talking about this and pointing out when each of the guitarists does his lead bit here. So I'm just going to cue this up. So actually the whole guitar solo, I'm just queuing it up now and I was listening to it. The whole guitar solo is each of the 3 guitarists taking their turn. But they really put it together here in this part. Okay, here, this one. Everyone. Everyone. Miles is much better at conducting that part than I am. But yeah, it's like 1, 2, 3, everyone. 1, 2, 3, everyone. 1, 2, 3, everyone. So pretty cool like that. And Miles explains it's just math. It makes it sound so simple. It's just math. Math and music, hand in hand. So anyway, yeah, that is Roller. And let me just see here, what else do we have of this one here? Coming right down on top of me, the Miles Goodwin ballad, obligatory ballad on here. I'm Alive and Let Yourself Go, both of these good rock songs. And then Silver Dollar, a kind of an unusual one because it has this slower, heavier, darker sound to it. Not quite like Nazareth's Hollis Brown, the Ballad of Hollis Brown, but it kind of has a bit of that feel to it, like not as heavy, but still bit of a dark feeling to it. So that's really cool. So this is a really nice step up again. I think we can consider Forever for Now as a kind of a sidestep, and the band is back to being a hard rock band. And boy, did they ever prove that with the next album, Harder, Faster, from 1979. This is the one that opens with the track I Like to Rock. Look at this nice big print. I don't need to look at my notes. This is a really old release. This is like the 19, no, I can't see the date. 19, well, whatever, who cares. I Like to Rock, one of the trademark songs of April Wine, a very typical April Wine rock song. The end of it then goes into playing the riff for Day Tripper. Another guitarist comes in playing the riff for I Can't Get No Satisfaction, and the third guitarist starts playing the riff for I Like to Rock, and all three guitarists are each playing those riffs in unison as the song fades out. Say Hello, a little bit more of a poppy feel to it, almost a kind of like a Pretenders new wave kind of feel slightly, if that's the best description I can come up with. Just under 3 minutes, but nice song and a very popular one. What did I say about Tonight? Oh, it's an acoustic rock, melodic, and hard rock song. Ladies Man seems to be a rocker. And then we get to Before the Dawn, a Brian Greenway song. Now this, if you heard only this song, you might think it's a new wave of British heavy metal song. And actually, Buzz Elliott of the new wave of British heavy metal band Hammerhead told me that he and his buds used to really love listening to this song, and they'd actually cover it when their band played live sometimes. So Before the Dawn, it's got that slow feel and the heavy riffs. It's like a kind of a Diamond Head type thing. It's not Iron Maiden, it's not Def Leppard, it's certainly not Raven, but it does fit really well in with that new wave of British heavy metal sound here. Okay, Before the Dawn, Babes in Arms, I think I wrote is also hard rock song, and Better Do It Well, another hard rock song, and then a cover of 21st Century Schizoid Man, which they do really well. I was wondering, are they going to be able to manage that really tricky progressive middle part? No problem. They've got it covered. So that's Harder, Faster. I'd say probably this is also in my top 3 April Wine albums, at least for the first 10. They had a couple in the 90s that are also Frigate and Bad Attitude. Attitude and Frigate, I think it was. But I've got them on order. They are pretty darn heavy as well. Okay, so this brings us up to the 9th album released in, was it 1981, The Nature of the Beast. Oh, I gotta tell you something. By this time, April Wine, what did I write here? Late 70s, they're on tour with the Rolling Stones. They're opening for Rush, for Styx, for Triumph, Journey, Boston, Blue Oyster Cult, Nazareth, and in Europe, they're opening with Diamond Head, Jethro Tull, Neil Young, Michael Schenker Group, and the list just goes on and on. And they're the opening act. Man, I mean, it's kind of weird, They're up to their 7th, 8th, 9th albums, and they're still the opening act. But man, are they kicking it. So we get to, Nature of the Beast. Now, this is actually their most commercially successful album. They actually finished their European tour in England and recorded the album there. Man, if you like this early 80s kind of borderline hard rock or early 80s heavy metal sound. Remember, early 80s heavy metal covered a fair range of things, but if you like that kind of style, this album is probably the closest to that. It's just a really good, solid, hard-hitting album. Really, really cool. We open with All Over Town. Just a really fun, typical April Wine rock song, and a bit of humor in there. They have this one part where it's like Miles sings, "I don't care," and da-da-da, and the whole band goes, "He don't care, da-da-da, I don't care, da-da-da-da, da-da-da." That's cool. Then we've got Telling Me Lies, just, it's good, but Sign of the Gypsy Queen, track number 3. Now this is a cover of a song by somebody. Oh yeah, that's right, Lawrence Hood, who had a minor hit with this song, I think, around 1972. So it's a cover of that, but man, do these guys own this one. I mean, this just sounds totally like an April Wine song. It's really, really good. Let's see here, Just Between You and Me, again, the big hit ballad. You know, Miles cranks one out every album, and that's why they could put an album of just these ballads together. They're so good. Wanna Rock, exactly that. Another rock song, like I Like to Rock, I Wanna Rock, whatever. Caught in the Crossfire is unusual because it is a science fiction story, like people having to be kind of like emergency shipped off one planet, and then as they're escaping, some warships come in, and the defending ships come in, and the escapees are in the crossfire between these ships, you know. So it's really unusual for April Wine to do a science fiction song. It's a good track though. Future Tense, it's a rocker. It's a rocker. Wow, especially the opening is really intense. And there's one really cool line in there like, whatever happened to 50-50-50-50? Great. Love it. Big City Girls, again, good solid rock song. Crash and Burn, wow, really intense rocker again about the hard life of rock and roll. You know, if you get too caught up in the party life and all that goes on there, you are going to crash and burn, so you got to watch out. Bad Boys, another rocker, and then One More Time, just another fun rockin' song with a great rhythm to the vocals. Really, really cool. And there's Miles wearing a Montreal Canadiens shirt. I should have brought my jersey out. It's in the closet there. All right, so we're at the 9th album now. The band has been working their butts off, and they need a break. So, especially since Miles is writing most of the songs. So the band actually does go on an 18-month break, and they come back with their 10th album, Power Play, released in 1982. Honestly, you listen to this album, just listen to this album, it is another really good April Wine album. However, listening to the last 3 albums in succession following by this one, it's like the band went up and then kind of dropped to just a good April Wine album. It opens wonderfully. I gotta check my notes because the print is really small katakana on the back here. So let's see, we open with Anything You Want, You Got It, which is not a cover of the song Anything You Want, You Got It. No, this is an April Wine hard rocker. Great opening to the album. Enough Is Enough, more mainstream melodic rock song. There was a video for it. They're playing in the back of a truck, I think. If You See K. Now this was actually written by someone, what is it, David Freeland. There are different songs out there called If You See K. And I think April Wine's is the most famous one. Although somebody, I was trying to find background information, somebody mentioned hearing a song in Nashville, maybe in the late 70s, so not sure. But this was released as a single, and it was kind of April Wine's joke to try to stick DJs. But DJs quickly caught on that they could not play this song on the radio because the chorus goes, if you see Kay, tell her I love her. If you see Kay, listen to it. You'll know what I mean if you haven't heard it. So yeah, I think it didn't go over so well as a single just because couldn't play that. Let's see here. What If We Fall in Love? Of course, the nice ballad on there. Waiting on a Miracle. Melodic rocker, melodic rhythm. Yeah. Doing It Right is a Powder Blues Band cover song, which is almost exactly like the Powder Blues Band version, except without the brass. Powder Blues Band was a band from Vancouver that was actually started by, oh, did I write his name down? I didn't write his name down, but the fellow was actually born in Chicago and then went off to, I guess, in Canada and ended up in Vancouver doing the Powder Blues Band. So yeah, Doing It Right on the Wrong Side of Town. Good fun song. Ain't Got Your Love, another April Wine hard rock song. Blood Money, mid-tempo, kind of a mean-sounding hard rock song. Tell Me Why, Beatles cover. Sounds pretty good. And Runners in the Night, kind of slower rock song with a kind of stylin', bluesy lead guitar to it. So, this album went to what, number 37 on the Billboard Top 200, stayed there for 20 weeks, but did not do as well as the previous album, Nature of the Beast. Did I say it was number 24 on Billboard Commercial Rock? It went to number 21. Just Between You and Me went to 21 on the top 100 singles, number 11 on the top tracks. So this album here wasn't as much of a critically acclaimed, and it did not sell as well. And so at this time here, Miles decided he was going to move with his family to the Bahamas. So here we are at the 10th album. The band has just been climbing all the way. And at the 10th album, it's a bit of a dip. All right? Then Miles decides he's going to go live in the Bahamas, and that means there's a separation from him and the rest of the band. And what happens is the next album, Animal Grace, released in 1984, 83-84, gets a single in the charts, but it doesn't stay for all that long. And soon after that, the band go on a farewell tour and split up. So when we take a look at these first 10 albums of a band, we see what state is the band in by the end of those 10 albums. And we see April Wine has done very, very well for themselves, but they're at that kind of breaking point. They're at the point where the strain of the constant touring is you know, it's great, but yeah. And so it's just after this point here, the band suddenly slip and split. So there you have it, the first 10 albums of April Wine. You know, it is not a band that I often think to listen to. Usually just this or that album or this or that song. But going through these 10 albums again, I'm reminded what a killer hard rock band these guys are. I would say that, you know, something in the vein of like Thin Lizzy or something like that. A band that just consistently puts out albums with great hard rockin' songs. And Thin Lizzy as well had that kind of unusual beginning where it had a, you know, different lineup and different style, and then moved into that Thin Lizzy sound that we all got to know. So April Wine are kind of like Canada's, not Thin Lizzy version, but following that kind of similar course. Anyway, there you go. Thanks for watching, everybody. Leave comments if you do wish to. I'd love to hear what you have to say about April Wine. All right, catch you in another video. See you maybe in a week or two, actually. Bye, all. No more cats. Ha!